burnt?
Not yet.
I feel hot.
You should. Want some lotion?
Yeah. Welcome to Doctrine and Devotion, the podcast that explores Christian faith and practice from a Reformed Baptist perspective. My name is Joe Thorne. I am the lead pastor of Redeemer Fellowship in St. Charles, Illinois.
And I'm Jay Fowler, executive pastor at Redeemer Fellowship.
So I feel a little burnt. Even though I was in the shade.
Even though you were hiding.
I had a hat on. I had my vacation hat on.
It just, complaining.
Well, yeah, but that's going to happen, though. I'd be inside. I'd be complaining.
Yeah.
So we had a really good time. We were at Jimmy's house.
Yep.
One of our guys, Lee, is marrying one of our girls, Sarah.
Yep.
And so while she was having some kind of lady, what do they do? Ladies thing? What do the ladies do? She was doing a ladies thing here.
Yeah, they were Stepford wives.
Okay, that's a Stepford wives thing.
Initiation.
Initiation. All right, good. And then Steve McCoy, it's his daughter. So for his future son-in-law, he said, "Hey, let's all get together and have a cookout and hang out."
So it was so kind of him.
It
really was.
It was a really awesome thing. It was so kind of him to invite everybody to Jimmy's pool. We did it at Jimmy's house because it's a great place to do it. He's got the jacuzzi, hot tub. He's got the pool. He's got the grill. But it was really thoughtful of Steve to actually hey, let's do this.
And here's the thing. I shared it with the guys. I don't think Lee understands.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't.
He doesn't.
I think he does understand how loving and caring
and
amazing
and rare.
Yeah, rare. What just happened? Because none of us had that experience with our father-in-law. No, at least hold on. My father-in-law did not welcome me in for years.
Yep.
And did not treat me as the way Steve treated Lee.
Yeah.
And the way he honored him and the way he welcomed him as a son.
Yep.
My
father-in-law literally didn't say one word to me.
Yeah. So
because he's dead. He's dead.
Jen's
dad. Yeah, he died before I died.
So he literally said nothing.
Still to this day has never said anything to me.
Okay. Well, mine's alive, and
you want to trade? I bet.
No. Danielle, don't call your father. Just Danielle, do not call your father. But it's been a bit rough. It's better now, but at the beginning it was rough.
Of course.
And you know what? Just that gesture. So Steve modeled for the rest of us men.
Yep.
Here is how you welcome a young man that's marrying your daughter.
If you get a Lee. If I get a Jimmy, I'm not going to do
what?
this.
I'm fantastic.
Were you fantastic back then?
I was. I was. I dressed like a rodeo clown.
Okay.
But I was still amazing.
I tell you what was cool about this was it was, Lee and I think Travell was there, single guy, and then a bunch of married dudes of various stages. And at one point, Steve said, "Hey guys, give some advice to Lee here on marriage." And that's the kind of thing that sounds to some of you might like, ugh, it's gonna be cheesy and ruin it. No, man, it was the highlight.
Yeah.
Everybody's sitting around and talking about marriage and what not to do, what we've learned through our mistakes.
Yep.
What to do, how to love your wife.
And then to pray over him.
Oh,
and
that was
pray
great.
over their marriage.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fantastic time.
Yeah, I got burnt, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Speaking of people being burnt, you can give it to me now.
What do you think I have?
You know exactly what you have.
I don't have anything, but I want to hear what you think I have.
You know exactly what you took from my house.
I took nothing from your house.
Okay, what you took from Greg.
I took nothing from Greg. No, for real. This is awesome. I love that you're wrong about something. It's the second thing you've been wrong about today.
Greg can't find his lighter.
No. Last time I saw it,
No, you took his lighter.
I did not. First of all, I don't like that lighter.
You don't like it because I gave it to Greg for his birthday.
No.
All of a sudden,
nope.
All of a sudden, I give Greg a gift.
You give Greg a little tiny one-burner torch.
It was two-burner.
Okay, basically the same thing. It's a useless little laser pointer.
Okay.
And
two-burner.
All right, and I already dropped it and ruined it, so I wouldn't want it. But also, no, I picked it up to give it to Greg when he wanted. He was in the pool. He wanted a cigar. I was like, I'll get you a lighter. I went over there. I grabbed it. It was out, so I dropped it on the table where Pat was sitting and got him a different one.
So you're telling me Travell and or Tim and or Pat stole it?
I don't know about that. I just know I put it on the table and I didn't
all I know is we're all looking at you.
That's fine. I'm used to it. Fine.
Well, then may I borrow your lighter?
Of course, right here.
Thank you.
Can you reach it with your little arms?
No, I need your help.
All right. So, it doesn't feel good to be accused of stealing. I don't like that. and it doesn't feel good.
But you understand why.
I understand why, because sometimes things look like you stole something.
And sometimes people have the motive in their heart that they're upset that I gave someone a gift for their birthday.
Yes, that's right. So there's giving and stealing, and it kind of meshes in pretty well with what we're talking about here. We're not going to do our Baptist Catechism discussion. We're going to do that on Thursday, so don't worry about it, you Reformed Baptist brothers and sisters. We're getting to it Thursday. But today we're mixing it up because everybody's talking about this Lytton Greer borrowing, sharing, or plagiarism.
Now, I'm really hoping to have, is he like president-elect? What do you call him?
I think he's president.
Is he president or president-elect?
No, he's president for 2 years. So it's this year.
I know, but when does the term begin?
I think it began. Yeah. There's no swearing in ceremony.
Oh, I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. No, I think so. All right. So
Lytton is president.
Ed Lytton, new president of the Southern Baptist Convention.
Now he's expressed interest.
Yeah, he might come on the podcast. Yeah,
he's expressed interest.
Yeah,
through someone else.
Yep.
And so we gave here's the proper channels to get on the podcast.
Here's what you have to pay to get on.
No.
I wasn't supposed to do.
We're not charging him anything.
We don't charge anybody.
And I'm hoping he still. Let's find out if he still comes on after this. I mean, you're willing to do it before. I'm hoping you're still willing to come on because I still want to ask you this question.
I'm willing to bet, Ed, that you're listening. We're not here to flame you or JD or anybody, but we got to talk about it. Our listeners want us to talk about it, even though we've already addressed this issue on a few different occasions. Mm-hmm. But you're a president, so we need to talk about this thing. Now, what happened was
El Presidente.
I was at home. I was on my back porch, I think, and probably smoking a cigar, hanging out, and I got a video sent to me, and they're like, "Hey, you guys should talk about this." And I'm like, "What's this?" And I got a video. Want to play some of it?
Yep. Yeah. Go for it.
All right, here we go.
Go ahead.
And if you don't know anything about what we're talking about, it's comparison between J.D. Greer, and it's going to start with J.D. Greer, the former president of the Southern Baptist Convention. He's preaching, and then it'll cut to other clips of Ed Lytton preaching a sermon like a year later, maybe, on the same text, on the same passage. Here we go.
Let's hear it.
I'll give you a warning here that this might be the toughest week that we will have in the book of Romans. Romans 1, the end of it is tied in difficulty only with Romans 5, Romans 9, and Romans 11.
This may be one of the toughest passages we face in the book of Romans.
So that's Lytton.
This is the steep climb I talked about.
So, in fact, let's just sort of loosen things up right now. Everybody turn right now to your neighbor, look them in the eyes. If you know them, put your hand on their shoulder and say, "This is going to be a really tough week for you," okay? And tell them, say, "I'm praying for you to have the faith and humility to receive this word."
I want you to turn to your neighbor right now. And I want you to say, "I know this sermon's going to be really tough for you, but I'm here praying that you will listen and obey whatever God says." Go ahead, do that right now.
That's
But y'all, we believe that God's word is good, do we not?
You see, we believe that God's word is good.
In some of my travels overseas, I'll go into these temples that are erected to a foreign god. I remember being in one of them a while ago over in somewhere in Asia. And
Paul David Tripp is a favorite pastor of mine to read. He's a pastor in Philadelphia. He was on a mission trip to Nepal, and he was taken by a missionary into a temple.
And there was, I go in this temple, it's this gigantic, beautiful temple. And right in the middle of it is about a 25-foot statue of a goddess who has multiple breasts and multiple arms. And
he said, and I will not go into details, but he does explain it, that there was an idol in the center of this temple. He said it was one of the most grotesque things he's ever seen.
Watch these worshipers come in, and they would prostrate themselves before this statue, and many of them were very emotional. Many had traveled a lot of miles to get to this, very poor, some of them, and taking the little money they had and pouring it out and offering before this statue of this god.
But what really turned his stomach wasn't the shape of the idol. It was how people were bowing down to it, kissing it, putting money on it. He met a family that had walked for 4 months to get to this idol.
Later, finding myself just going back over that incident in my mind and feeling sorry for the people there and thanking God kind of in my heart that I wasn't like them.
But he walked out of that temple saying, "Thank God I'm not like them."
Then in the middle of that thought, it just occurred to me.
All right, let's just stop for a second because we've got three people now involved in this.
Yeah.
Because you've got JD preaching a situation where he had this particular thought in his experience. You've got Lytton, who has been copying JD's sermon. Now,
but he still cites Lytton. But Lytton,
when he starts telling this story,
cites Paul Tripp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He goes, I got this illustration from Paul Tripp. But JD's sharing the same illustration saying it's all him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just to clear up that we got 3 people involved in this.
I had a whole list of things in my heart that have taken God's place, just like that statue had.
When the Spirit of God said, Paul, you are exactly like them.
I compared it to if the earth were to say to the sun, I am sick and tired of you being in the middle of the solar system.
If the earth were to ask the sun in our solar system, I'm sick and tired of floating out here in nothingness, surrounding you constantly. I want to be the center of this solar system.
The sun might just say to the earth, all right, have it your way. The earth is 30,000 times smaller than the sun and would not have the ability to keep all the planets in orbit. And so the solar system would begin to unravel simply because the sun gave to the earth what it asked for.
Folks, our entire solar system would fall apart. Why? Because the earth doesn't have the power of light and it doesn't have the power of gravitational force to hold this solar system in existence.
Sexual disorder, that was the first thing, verses 26 and 27. Now we've got economic disorder.
There's economic disorder. Look at verse 29.
And at this point, they're
the same
highlighting
3 points.
the same 3 points, right? We want to pause there?
Yeah, pause that.
All
That's
right,
fine.
so you guys can, we'll have a link to the whole thing.
You get the gist of it, I think, at this point. Yeah.
So, yeah, okay, so what's the point here? What's the point of this video? This video was created, crafted by somebody.
Now, I have a feeling. So, all right. There are people out there that...
There are people out there.
There are people out there that may not be too excited that Ed Litton is president.
That is a very soft way to put it, yes.
All right. So, but I don't believe...
Soft like Ed's theology. No, I'm kidding. That's what they would say.
Yeah. But I don't believe there's someone out there, like, combing through his sermons, trying to find and like gotcha moments.
You don't think so?
No. What I do think, and this is what I feel, someone was doing a sermon on Romans 1, was checking out other preachers and stumbled upon it.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty...
So I've never done that a day in my life. Not in over 20 years of preaching.
I know you haven't.
Never done it.
But others have.
So weird, yeah.
But I mean, do you really think someone's like going through the archives of these two, Ed Litton and this other guy?
Actually, there was a statement that was put out, and one of the statements that was made was, I was actually, because this sermon by JD, it got him in some trouble, because this is the sermon in which he refers to God whispering about some things, the Bible whispering about some things, and they noted that Litton said the same thing as the new president. So it sounds like, they were actually just looking at this statement in this issue, and then they realized this whole thing is basically a reproduction.
Okay. All right. Well,
they're not digging.
That's the part. That's the part. I don't think
preaching stealing.
Correct. Yeah.
Now there are a lot of people though that are going to say, no, listen, they're out there, they're combing through everything, they're going to try, and there's no doubt there are going to be people that are going to be coming after the president of the SBC. Because people, listen, they're going online. The guy that lost, Stone, is he's on.
He's handling it with full humility. He's handling it.
He's going on podcasts talking about
honoring God and honoring.
I don't know.
Or is he going full Trump? This election was stolen.
No. He's not doing that. He's not saying it was stolen. But he is very clearly talking about what he believes to be the danger of the SBC going in the liberal direction, and that Ed Litton is a part of that trajectory. I guess a lot of people are saying like,
I love men like that. That it kind of shows you at the end, like, yeah, you probably shouldn't have been leading.
Yeah. So all that to say, clearly this video is highlighting that somebody's stealing or borrowing or something from somebody else. And we're not getting into all of the politics here. We do want to talk again about this issue because it is obviously a very current, pressing issue. Pastors are not doing the work. Not all pastors, but a lot of pastors, a lot of preachers are not doing their work. Now, this blew up, and so JD released a statement, and Pastor Litton released a statement.
Yeah, here, let me see here. Hold on.
Just read part of JD's.
Can I read just? All right, I'm just going to read part. Here you go. In January of 2019, I preached a message called How the Fall Affects Us All, Romans 1:24-32. On Paul's explanation of the effects of the fall on all of us, particularly in the realm of social and sexual disorder, the content of the message, particularly my 3 conclusions at the end about homosexuality, where the church gets this wrong, got a lot of traction. And clips and summaries of this message were shared on a number of blog and podcast sites. It was one of the most widely distributed messages I've ever preached at the Summit Church. Several months later, Pastor Ed Litton reached out and told me that he had really appreciated my take on Paul's warnings in that chapter and asked if he could use some of the content with his congregation, as well as how we had broken down the entire series on Romans at the Summit Church. Pause there.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you know, we get the same thing.
Yeah, people ask us for how our everything from our graphics to our outlines to the wording of things.
Correct.
Yeah.
I told him that whatever bullets of mine worked in his gun to use them. My own take on these things, my own take on these kinds of things is usually shaped by the input of many godly men and women. Ed and I have been friends for many years, and we have talked often about these matters, and I was honored that he found my presentation helpful.
And just to go back, people haven't specifically cited a sermon of mine. Say, hey, can I use your sermon? It's been more about, hey, we like the packaging of this series.
Yep.
Can we use your graphics? And we say no, because it's
we say talk to.
Yeah, talk to. Well, yeah.
No, we've never told anyone they can't use. Yeah. Even recently, someone asked, so for our Revelation series, they're like, hey, I like the tagline.
Yeah, the tagline, but not for the graphics. The graphics are commissioned art.
I know, but the graphics we say talk to Brian Malcolm, and Brian always says yes. Oh, does it?
Well, we'll let Brian handle that. But yeah, the point is,
I didn't realize you said no. My bad. My bad, y'all.
Yeah, it's
apparently I said something wrong.
No, I think the issue is, and Brian, please correct us if I'm wrong, because I remember us having this conversation on a couple of occasions, and the reality is like it gets confusing because our content is out there with that branding. So if somebody else is using that same branding on their content on the same series, it could be confusing.
I'm fine with that.
So all right. So then Ed Litton also released a statement, and he said,
"All right, do you want to read Litton's?"
I'll just read part of it. He said, we employ a preaching team approach at Redemption Church that is comprised of 8 men from our staff and congregation.
We get away with 2, just Joey and I.
That's right. Don't need 8.
Don't need 8.
That's right. The terrible 2.
The terrible 2 does a work of 8.
That's right.
And you know what? With the 2 of us, we didn't go to JD.
That's right. Actually, for this Roman series, JD copied our series on Romans, actually. I didn't want to bring it up, but it's totally all of it, except for the whispering part. It was all Redeemer. Yeah. No, not at all. Okay.
I'm about to say, I don't think that's any of it was...
No, that's not JD's a very good preacher. Very good communicator. You could even see that guy's good up there.
His presence, how he goes about it, his cadence.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
All right. So 8-man congregation. They meet weekly to discuss insights, outlines, and approaches to the text. This sermon prep process includes working in the languages, consulting commentaries and books, and listening to strong communicators. I still don't get that, but that's just me.
Joey and I don't do that. We do the other part.
Yeah, we do the other part. In that process, I learned about my friend J.D. Greer's message on Romans and discovered that he had recently preached that what he had recently preached resonated with the direction God was leading me and our preaching team. We often consulted his manuscripts along with other resources. I found that
let's stop right there. You often consulted them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No offense, but I go to okay, we'll talk about it.
All right, we'll talk. Okay.
I found that J.D. Greer's message on Romans 1 was insightful, particularly his 3 points of application. With his permission, I borrowed some of his insights and those 3 closing points. The story of Paul David Tripp was from his devotional New Morning Mercies on January 22nd. His story took place in India. And then further down, he says, I hold the same study process on each sermon. As any pastor who preaches regularly knows, we often rely on scholars and fellow pastors to help us think through and communicate more clearly with the goal of faithfully preaching the truths of Scripture to our congregations. But I am sorry for not mentioning JD's generosity and ownership of these points. I should have given him credit as I shared these insights.
All right, that's fair. I mean, he is right. We do often look at scholars and even other pastors. Now, we might not look at other pastors living, but you look at a Baxter. You might go look at an Owen. You might go look at some of these other guys, in their dead man writings, right? The Puritans.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these guys were other pastors that we have. So that's
nothing
fair.
wrong. There's nothing wrong. Nothing immoral about
fair.
looking at that stuff. So, okay. So just to give it the breakdown, what's happened in this situation, as far as we know, is Pastor Litton used Pastor Greer's material with Pastor Greer's permission.
Yes.
He said, hey, I want to use your stuff. And Greer's like, do it, man. Go do your thing.
Bottom line, Joey, did he steal it?
It was not stealing.
That's not stealing.
All right. Okay. But so, and using the outline is less problematic for me, even though I would say, hey, you know what? He's the president of our convention. He has these 3 points of application. We're going to run with these and then go.
And you know what? You have, haven't used other, but you have said hey, I'm going to use throw a name. Owen had these 8 points. Yeah, and we're going to go through these. And then sometimes you'll be like, he's giving these 8. I'm going to add a ninth.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And so it's like, listen, it doesn't, if you're a good communicator, you're not have to belabor it. It doesn't have to be brutal, but yeah, just say where you're getting it from. He doesn't do that. But also it's not just the outline. It's the opening illustrations. It's the jokes. So much of it is
copy and paste.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. It's just cringy when you see it, right?
Yeah.
It makes me like, ooh, I feel embarrassed. As a
like, what do you mean? What do you mean you feel embarrassed? Yeah,
because
I'm trying to understand that concept.
So like Jimmy, you're a preacher.
Yeah,
it's hard work. Putting together a message is hard work. I was preaching on Revelation 12, 7 through 17 today. It's revelation. It takes a lot of work. I'm using resources and commentaries, and we'll talk about
Tim
that.
LaHaye,
no, stop.
Jenkins.
I'd rather use Anton LaVey, who's the founder of the Satanic Church. All right, not really, though. I do actually.
Do you really have a copy here?
The Satanic Bible right here is on my shelf.
What is wrong with you?
Because research. I'm writing that book. Okay, there you go. Teaser. All right, so I had Deb order me a bunch of satanic stuff on Amazon, and now her Amazon
what is wrong?
Amazon recommendations are like, would you like this Aleister Crowley bio? She's like, Joe, it's recommending all this satanic source. I'm like, yeah, that's what happens when you're a ministry assistant. You sometimes got to get background material. All right, so anyways, it's hard work, right? You put a lot of work into it, and I'm very conscious of I'm gonna have to go up here. I'm gonna have to preach this. I'm gonna give everything, and the idea that I guess what makes it cringy and embarrassing is it's embarrassing because you did something you didn't need to do. You don't need to you don't need to mimic a person. You don't need to, you're not an actor. At this point, you're reading lines. You're not an actor. You're a preacher, man. So get up there and preach. I have no doubt that Ed can get up there, open that Bible and preach. So do it. And I guarantee you this, you preaching you is going to be better than you preaching somebody else every time. So it's embarrassing because of that. It's also embarrassing because it's like, ooh, you're caught. You got busted. And that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, what could be SBC president? And thank you.
Yeah. So, all right. Do you think this is a sin? A lot of people say this, he's disqualified from ministry. He should resign from ministry.
No, I don't think so.
All right. I don't think so either. I don't think it was sin.
I don't think so either. No.
Maybe it's not. I don't think so. I do think it's serious.
I think it's bad form. I think
form.
you should have gave credit. I think you should have been a little bit more transparent up front.
I tell you what.
Now
our elders would yank my chain.
Oh my gosh.
They'd be like, bro.
If all of a sudden we found out that Joe stole a sermon, I'm trying to think who he. So okay,
Michael Horton.
Every once in a while, yeah. I mean, Joe likes. If Joe stole something from Owen.
Yeah, okay. First of all, be very specific and be very careful.
You know which one?
No, John Owen.
No.
Yeah, no. Stop it.
No.
I'm not using little man stuff. Okay.
Strip mall seminary.
Okay, forget about it.
Owen. How do you pronounce it? Strahan?
Strahan.
I'm
not copying Owen. If I'm copying an Owen to be John Owen.
So when Joey stole from Owen.
Okay, never have.
But if he did.
Okay.
If he did, then yeah. I mean, we'd be like, all right, dude, obviously you need a break.
Here's what happened. You know what's funny is like one of our preachers will preach something and it'll be like, there'll be a section that is so tight. Like it's really good. Mm-hmm. You know what I ask him?
What do you ask?
Is that you?
Do you really?
100%. I've done it to Pat, I've done it to others.
Man, you've never done it to me.
No, it's never that good. Anyway, you walked right into it, bro.
As soon as I said it, I was like, it's a trap. It's a trap.
No, man, your preaching's good. And I know you. I know how you work. But sometimes it's like dang, man. And so I remember asking Pat, I'm like, bro, that's really good. Did you pull that from somewhere or is that just you? He's like, no, that's just me. I'm like, that's gold, man. That's really, really good. Own that and do more of that. So yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Bad form. All right, so let's talk about pastors and their preaching and this whole idea that we do have to rely on scholars for the things that we can't do,
or maybe don't have time to do. There are some pastors that maybe they could delve deep into the languages.
Sure,
but you don't have time for that. You have too much counseling. You have too many meetings.
Yeah,
right?
See, I completely disagree with this line of thinking. If you're a full-time pastor, you have enough time to do your own sermon prep.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say you couldn't. No. Let me finish my thought.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
You said they're too busy to get into the language. That's sermon prep.
To go deep into the languages, that's why you rely on scholars.
Well, I would say this: if somebody,
you're telling me,
yeah,
because I know you know Greek and Hebrew.
No, I really don't know Hebrew that well.
Oh, hold on. You made it sound like you're this not an expert.
I've never once made myself sound like an expert. No,
not expert. I didn't say expert.
You just did.
No, I said you never made yourself sound like an expert.
Yes, right.
But you have made it sound like I have this grasp and I can go through it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, of Greek, yeah.
Yes, but you don't have time to go deep into that. So you do rely on a cursory view of scholars. I'm saying a lot of pastors who, all of you guys, have this education. You can't go deep into it like you could in seminary.
No, I would say that I go as deep as I can. Because the reality is, first of all, I've had probably more Greek than your average MDiv guy.
Okay.
And
I know you're so special.
No, I'm not special. I'm not smart. I'm just saying, because I had it in Bible college and then I had it in seminary.
So fantastic.
But I still am not a Greek scholar, so I can only go so far.
I know.
All right. So
that's all I'm saying.
In my case, we're talking like it's. Yeah, I think most
so
pastors.
If you could go deep, would you really sit here and spend, honestly, on average, would you spend 15 hours on sermon prep a week?
Oh, if I had the time, I absolutely would spend 15.
Okay, but you don't have the time,
well,
and that's what I'm saying. A lot of pastors don't have the time.
Okay, so let's agree on this. Every pastor has.
I feel like we both agree on the same thing.
We do.
But you're going against me.
No, we're looking at it in different ways because most pastors.
I'm being charitable.
Most pastors have a cursory introductory, and that's including myself, cursory introductory understanding of Greek or Hebrew, and so that basically really equips them to use tools and not to do deep translation work.
Okay.
So yes, I use my Greek scholar to do Greek schooling to use a lot of those resources, and it helps me. I can understand it. Okay. But yeah, let's say this: every preacher has
a certain amount of time.
Yeah, a certain amount of time. So I don't like the idea, like where preachers are like, well, I don't have enough time. That's why I have to farm stuff out.
I'm not saying that. So what I'm
that's why my point is we rely on scholars to do what we cannot, and cannot in this case could be a hindrance of the ability or the time to spend 15 to 20 hours.
I agree with that. When I heard cannot was like they don't know how to do it.
Yeah,
like
most don't when it comes to languages. They really don't.
What?
Yeah.
I have so much more respect for you guys. I thought you all had this.
Mm-mm.
Why'd you spend all that money?
Well, first of all, I went to Moody, so that was pretty cheap.
Southern.
Yeah, and then Southern it was like a third because I was a Southern Baptist, so you only pay a third, basically, something like that. All right, so but the bottom line is, and we do agree on this, languages, and there are interpretive issues, there's background information.
Yep.
We're not scholars in an academic sense, so you have to rely on other people to help you to see what you can't otherwise see.
Yep.
That's fine. You've got to do that.
Yep. I am with you all that, right? And I do think like every pastor, every preacher should do the work that they can do without farming it out.
Yeah.
Right. And it's all part of the process of building a good sermon.
Yes, it is.
Right. And I think that's really important because as you're doing the work, as you're actually involved in it, you're crafting it because it's really, really great for your congregation because you're thinking of them, right?
Yeah.
You have them in mind. You know their issues. You know their struggles. You know their temptations. You know their joys, right? Like, you know what's going on within your church and your community, and you're able to craft a sermon that is for them.
And the work that you put into understanding the passage strengthens your faith. It strengthens your theology. It strengthens your there's a difference. You know, in school, there's a difference between memorizing answers for a test and learning the material. There's a difference. You're going to forget what you memorize for a test, but the stuff you learn, the material that you actually learn, does stay with you. So
like, think of this like for all my schooling, right? Going through books, going through books of scripture, and it's been helpful. Nothing stays with me like preaching through a book.
Yeah.
Right. Like even Revelation, as you mentioned earlier, like everything that we've been discussing, everything that we've worked through, everything that we've been praying through, that sticks with me a lot more than what I had to memorize going through Hebrews.
Right. Yeah. Like I read, I remember the first book I read on Revelation that I liked. I've read a few, and it was More Than Conquerors by Hendrickson. And yes, it has problems, but I really liked it. So, okay. So you know what? Like 3 things really stuck with me from that book. But when you're doing the prep of studying and teaching through something, it all sticks. So, and listen, in Litton's defense, he's saying, listen, we've got a whole team of people. We study, we use the tools, we use all the resources. We're doing all the stuff that you guys are talking about.
Oh, you okay? No, Joe's getting choked up. Joe,
it's really an emotional time.
Joe, you okay?
And I just, maybe I just need to confess right now. that I'm not a very good preacher. Okay, got that out of the way.
No, you're great.
Yeah, thank you. So I do think that because this is one of the pastor's central responsibilities, it's not his only responsibility. Most pastors cannot spend 20 to 40 hours a week like John MacArthur is oftentimes said to be spending on his messages. We do have, like you said, counseling, emergencies. We've got business matters to be taken care of.
20 to 40 hours a week.
My preaching would be better if I could spend 20 hours a week on it.
Man, my goodness.
I get, for people want to know, I get like 10 to 12 is what I get. And it's probably about 10. And that's great. That's great. And I know that I can work with
Huggy says you only need 8 to 10.
Yes, 8 hours or less.
Oh yeah, 8
That's
hours
the title
or
of
less.
his book. So yeah, you want to use those, but you've got to you just have to do the work. Now, this doesn't mean that you're not going to pull an outline from somebody else and go, you know what, I like this outline better than what I came up with. I understand that. But this is where it gets into like homiletics. And so the exegesis is an area in which I think we need more help. Homiletically, I expect the preacher to be doing, like, that's the heavy lifting you can do.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're going to need more help on the scholarly end, and then you can get insights from other people as it relates to homiletics and application and whatnot. I think that's fine, but I think there's more value in putting it together for your people yourself because it's coming from you. I think if I preached another guy's outline and didn't say anything,
first of all, we'd all know.
I think
because there's no metal reference, there's no horror reference.
It would be alliterated. It would rhyme. It would make sense.
We were like, oh, I could follow
That's
this.
really insight. Wait a minute.
I can follow the flow. He has 3 points and they're consistent.
All right. So so like I've never listened to another guy's sermon as I've been preparing for one of my own.
Really?
I've never done that, not one time. And now I have read, like you said, I'll read Spurgeon on occasion.
Okay.
On occasion. And I will read treatises and books theologically that relate. But of course I will use commentaries. But there's nothing wrong with looking at another pastor's sermon and saying, okay, well, how did he do it? And what can I glean from him and take from him? That's totally fine. So what are some ways in which we should do that or not do it? Like you can get inspiration and insight.
Okay.
Right?
Well, even you just said like some ideas. You can get some ideas, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they might hit on a point that you didn't think of.
Yeah.
And so as you're kind of going through, hey, you know what, that point does make sense, and I do see it within the text.
But I think it's important if you're gonna take something from somebody, then make it your own.
Yes.
Then don't go full in and copy and paste.
Yes.
Because even if I'm taking like, okay, so let's say I'm preaching on maybe repentance is a central theme in a text that I'm in.
Oh, hold on. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Watson.
Yeah. Watson's Doctrine of Repentance.
Knew it.
Maybe, or if I'm on prayer and I'm going to use a definition by John Bunyan.
Yep.
Right. So maybe I'll quote that and I'll cite that, but then I'm going to riff on it in my own way and unpack it in my own way. If I would use JD's outlines, he did these 3 things. Well, I'm not going to use his words beyond the outline. I'm going to say, here are his points. Now, here's what it means. And I would give it to my people that's custom tailored for them because then it's in my voice and it's me communicating to them. I think there's ways to do it, but the copy and paste thing, man, is embarrassing, awkward, and it's not real. It's not genuine. And I do think it's more acting than preaching at that point because you're really, really going with somebody else's content, like beyond just content with even style and.
No, and even as Litton said, right? Like, I mean, what's really important here is if you do use someone else's material, cite the original.
Yeah, but he did that with Tripp.
Yeah,
but he didn't do it with Greer.
He should have did it with Greer, and he you know what, he acknowledged.
He owned that. He's like, I totally should have done that.
Yep.
And that's good. And this is like, again, I think we can all learn from this.
Now, Joe, there are groups out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are groups out there. Maybe a lot of people don't know this.
There are many groups out there.
No, but there are groups out there for like sermon research preparation.
Yeah. There's a few. The big one is Docent.
Yeah.
Docent Research Group is really big, and a lot of people use it. Here's a summary of what Docent is, and this is particularly used by larger churches, churches that have enough cash to support a pastor with this kind of a thing. It says Docent Research Group exists to equip pastors and executive pastors of large churches.
Ooh, I'm an XP.
Of large churches, Jimmy.
Okay, now
you're out. With the tools and resources they need to minister in their unique context. Nothing wrong with this. By using a team of researchers with graduate level degrees or working on them, we provide clients with research to help plan for a new campus launch or church plant to sermon series preparation and planning. We help churches craft position papers to articulate beliefs, and we write custom curriculum for small groups, Bible studies, and Christian education programs. If you need it, we can do it. All right. So
did you like that?
Nah, not really. I mean, some of it's helpful. Some of it's good. Like, people do need help. And that's part of that's what's good about being connected to other churches of various sizes. Like, hey, you know what? We don't know how to write a position paper. Can you help us with this? And you get some coaching, you get some help. And so a group like this, like, hey, you're going to plant a church, you've never done it before. Well, you need help. And that's what your church planting networks are for. Hopefully your denomination can help you.
Yeah.
But and so they are filling in some of those gaps. Again, I struggle with this. Like, we're going to, and maybe they can help with sermon preparation, like saying, hey, you want to launch a series that's going to have maximum impact? Here are the components that you're going to need, right? I get some of that, but when they do the research for you, the background research for you, it doesn't really give you the opportunity to disagree with their research. Like, when I'm reading and doing background study, I can go, okay, well, here's one take on it, but here's two other takes. There's three positions here. Now, which one am I going to? They're going to just,
they're kind of spoon feeding you the view.
Right. And it's like, okay, I just think it's, I think crafting sermons demands the preacher to do his work and to tailor it to his own congregation and context. And I think that's hard to do if you're relying too much on what a group like Docent is going to do. So I'm not saying what Docent does is wrong, but it has its problems, I think. And that, for me, like, man, we've got enough people looking at us sideways as Christians and as preachers. It's, so when this is happening and it's like, oh, so you preached another guy's sermon, and listen, it happens a lot. We both, Jimmy and I both know pastors who've lost their jobs because they're preaching other people's sermons without permission. This is a little different, but so our take is, we've talked about this before. We'll link to our other episodes. You know where we stand. Preachers, preach your own sermons. If you're a critic here,
don't assume the worst.
Yeah, if you're a critic of Litton and these guys, don't just, when you see
some people are just out to get them.
Oh, he's stealing. Like, okay, well, let's find out.
Yeah.
And it turns out he didn't steal. He said, hey, can I use your stuff?
Yep.
And his friend's like, absolutely, use my stuff.
Yeah. Bad form. He probably could have handled it better.
Yeah.
But he didn't steal it.
No.
So don't call him. Don't. You're calling into question the man's integrity right there.
Yeah. Okay. I don't like that. Preachers, you know what we're going to tell you to do. Do your work.
You do it.
Yeah.
You have the time. You're set apart for this. Put in the work.
If you've only got 6 hours in the week, that's enough.
That's
Make
enough.
it work. If you've got 10 hours, make it work.
Yep.
And then church, man, if the word is being preached, we can rejoice in that. Paul said that. Even if people preach with wrong motives or if they're copying and pasting, if the word is being preached, we can at least rejoice in that. So let's rejoice when the word is preached, even if we disagree with some of the ways they go about it.
Pastor Litton, I hope you still consider coming on the podcast. We would love to have you on, discuss this, and discuss a few other things.
We'll talk about, the convention,
where we're going. The direction,
Yeah.
everything. We want to hear the vision that God has given you and give you an opportunity to kind of talk through some of the things, some of the disagreements and some of the issues that are outstanding. Well, we'd love to hear your thoughts. You can follow us online on Instagram and Twitter at DocDevo, or on Facebook /Doctrine and Devotion. You can head to the website, doctrinedevotion.com. There you can contact us. You can sign up for the email blast through the store, jofostore.com, and grab some gear. We got that fresh pod every Monday and Thursday. We got blog posts and video content over at the website. We've got that all-access exclusive content. Your banter truth on Tuesdays. You got your weekday wisdom Monday through Friday. Head on over to doctrinedevotion.com/all-access and register today. Joey, I'm really hoping that people will tag us and tag Pastor Litton.
Oh, goodness.
About coming on and talking with a Jofo.
Yeah, be good, man.
I would love to have
We're friendly guys.
We're friendly.
Yeah. We're not out to get you.
Nope.
Now,
What?
Jared Wilson, we would be out to get him.
He's got to go down. He has to go down.
If he has the guts to get on this podcast.
If he has, he has been on it.
Yeah, again.
If you have the guts
Next
to come
time.
on, Jared.
Yeah.
Again.
You're done.
You're going to quit.
Yeah.
Later.